Now, on Beyond the Continent, we turn to Turkey, where the arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem Imamoglu, a leading opposition figure, has reignited concerns about political repression. Facing new charges of alleged foreign espionage and corruption, Imamoglu's detention comes amid waves of arrests targeting opposition mayors, journalists, and civil society leaders. Now, as we unpack these developments, we ask, what does this say about the independence of the judiciary, the health of Turkish democracy, and the broader global trend of authoritarian consolidation? And how are citizens, media, and the international community responding to these rising pressures? To discuss this, I'm joined by Bolu Michael-Biyi, a foreign policy analyst in Eswatini. Thank you so much, Bolu, for joining us at this time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's hear your thoughts, Bolu. Is Imamoglu's arrest part of a broader government efforts to suppress opposition?
Absolutely, I think that's it really. It's part of a systematic pattern of suppressing political opposition in Turkey. We've seen that play out several times. Turkey is one of those countries that love to borrow from Russia's playbook. And when we look at the personality in question, Imamoglu is not just an ordinary politician. This is the same guy that beat Erdogan's party in Istanbul, which is Turkey's largest city and economic powerhouse and the former capital. In 2019, when he won the election, the best that the opposite, that Erdogan's party could do, was to push that election into a rerun in a way that was quite corrupt. And after doing the rerun, Imamoglu won again. With a wider margin. So while it's an indication that they still have a fairly reflective electoral process, it shows that Imamoglu is not just a threat to the opposition parties, a threat to Erdogan himself. We've seen mayors become president and prime minister. A typical example is Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, when he went from being the mayor of London to becoming the UK prime minister. So he's a major threat, and the authoritarian regime, they like to use broad terms like foreign espionage, corruption, and all that, because those are terms that are vague and they sound so serious. They are vague enough to be taken seriously, but at the same time flexible to apply to all sorts of things that could end the opposition in jail. And it's a playbook that Turkey uses. I believe it was borrowed from Russia as well, and it's quite unfortunate that this is happening. It keeps happening from literally generation to generation in Turkey.
All right, but then how credible is Turkey's claim that its judiciary is impartial, amidst multiple arrests and media seizures?
Well, I don't think it's the judiciary in Turkey is independent. When we look at the trend and the history and Turkey's pedigree when it comes to the relationship between the judiciary and executive, I'll give a typical example. After the 2016 coup attempt, Turkey purged out over 4,000 judges, and prosecutors. Just thinking about that, and they replaced them with the loyalists of the president. So when that happens, it shows that the judiciary is not independent. For us to say that there's real democracy in place, the judiciary must be independent. It must have independent appointment processes. It must have a security of tenure and the freedom from the executive arm. But since they got dismantled in 2016, we've seen judges serving the pleasure of the executive, which means that there's really no democracy in place. There's no checks and balances or anybody that can call the executive to order. So to answer the question plainly, I don't think that the judiciary in Turkey is independent.
All right, now, Bolu, you've listed quite a few challenges, or quite a number of challenges, but do you think that despite all of them, that the opposition victories can still influence Turkish politics, under such pressures?
you see, I feel like the problem is not for opposition parties to win election, and the main problem is having them to govern. For example, Imamoglu won his election. So opposition parties do win election in Turkey, but the issue is that they make it ungovernable. They make them unable to govern. They literally just distract them all through their tenure. The fact that Erdogan's party keeps losing major cities like Istanbul, it means that the voters are expressing their dissent, which is something that is remarkable. But winning an election doesn't guarantee that people that the elected will be able to govern. If a mayor, for example, is not having the support of the federal government, it will be difficult for them to get funding to be able to do their projects and things like that. So the challenge really is how can opposition parties or candidates really govern in Turkey? From what we've seen so far, they are not able to do so. It's just something that it's quite unfortunate, because when two giants are fighting, is the grass, the people that suffer.
Speaking of the people suffering, let's talk about the media and civil society. How is the suppression of independent media affecting public oversight and dissent?
Okay, you see, when the media is suppressed, it means that the international community cannot have an insight into what is happening in a particular country, and the citizens will not be able to have credible information as well. And it's a part of the playbook of authoritarian take over the media. Imagine independent. Let's use Nigeria for example. Imagine the federal government taking over private media establishments and forcing them to follow the whims of APC. That is what is going on in Turkey. I'm not saying that's happening in Nigeria. I'm just trying to have us understand what is going on using our local context. So if we look at the statistics, Turkey has become one of the world's largest jailers of journalists. We are talking about hundreds of reporters being imprisoned on vague terms like espionage charges, terrorism, and all sorts. So when journalists don't feel safe, they can't ask politicians the hard questions, because they know that they might end up in jail, go missing, or get something bad may happen to their family. Because let's look at it, at the end of the day, these are individuals who have a family life, they have a private life, they have people who rely on them, who depend on them for their day-to-day existence. So they too will be careful on the personal level and on the professional level as well, so they don't get caught in the gimmicks of the current government.
All right, Bolu, we're actually about wrapping up now, but speak to us on, I know you didn't want to compare, but we do not mind you comparing now. Speak to us on the international response. Is there a role that the global community should play in responding to political crackdowns? Because we've seen how Turkey's situation compared to other political repressions in countries like Zimbabwe, Russia, and also India.
Yeah, the international community, they definitely have a role to play. But what I'm really concerned about is that the international community itself is stretched. The international community is involved in so many things. For example, the trade war between the USA and the rest of the world, international community is involved. Russia and Ukraine, international community will be involved. The alleged genocide in Nigeria, international community. So how many things will the international community really involve? And I feel they're kind of stretched. And that's, I think, kind of explain the reason why they literally just bring out statements on paper. Oh, we condemn this and this going in this country. And at the end of the day, we are not seeing any practical step, being taken. And Turkey, for example, has not been brought to book for what they've done to journalists. We've only seen the EU and UN and the rest, they just release statements on paper, and the next thing is that they are receiving the next shipment from Turkey in their ports the next day. So, and this keep authoritarian regimes to continue to perpetrate their actions. So until we see the willpower, the political will from the international community to actually penalize these authoritarian regimes, I don't have faith in these big organizations like the EU and you and the rest to do anything until I see that political will before I can really put my money on them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bolu, for your time and for speaking on this.